Is it just me, or have these last few years been amazing for everyone who grew up playing classic platformers in the late 90s and 2000s? It seems like almost every classic platformer under the sun has been given some sort of remake, remaster, or reimagining, with this summer alone yielding us a reboot of KO the Kangaroo, and in just a few days, a compilation of the first two Klonoa games. Just go and get it, by the way. Announced recently is yet again another often overlooked but well-loved game in classic platforming history being remade from the ground up in Pacman World RePac. This game will be releasing on all the current consoles and PC when it arrives on August 26, 2022. In this episode of Game Watch, we will be taking a look at this upcoming remake, as well as give you my thoughts of the original game when I played it back in 1999, and whether or not the footage shown in this new reveal trailer warrants your investment in this game. So without further ado, let's dive in! Pacman World is a game that came out at the tail end of 1999, right at the turn of the new millennium, as the year 2000 marked the 20th anniversary of the world's most beloved pie chart. Pacman World is a 3D platforming game that plays very much like a 2D game in the sense that its mostly horizontal planes have some depth to them so that you can maneuver toward or away from the camera. There are still numerous 3D sections to the game, but they are quite linear and are much more akin to the early Crash Bandicoot games. This colorful and charming platformer takes you through many unique and varied locations, including pirate-themed retreats, spooky carnival settings, and levels taking place in outer space, just to name a few. Pac-Man can eat up his yellow dots that reveal hidden collectibles, bounce on enemies, and jump across platforms as he seeks to rescue his friends who have been imprisoned in cages. This is all very traditional platforming stuff, and the best thing about all this is that while playing the game, it feels very much like Pac-Man. Throughout many of the levels, the game's camera shifts into an overhead view, tasking Pac-Man to collect his yellow dots through a traditional Pac-Man maze, harkening back to its roots. What we can see in this reveal trailer is that it all looks so much better now, with much more vibrant colors and a more polished, updated modern aesthetic to them. Boss fights in Pacman World are quite commendable, as these fights are quite varied from one another, tasking Pac-Man to fight in a spaceship akin to Galaga, cruise through a speedway akin to Mario Kart, and more. The gameplay shown in Pacman World RePac gives me a lot of hope that plenty of work went into the game to modernize the game and its mechanics while still retaining the original feel and spirit of the original. From what I remember of the kart racing level in the original game back on the PS1, the gameplay was in a third-person perspective as you navigated the kart through a windy road, and the driving feeling extremely slippery, to the point where you might as well be sliding on ice. It was quite the headache coming to grips with timing your turns to effectively maneuver through them, but it looks like this remake has shifted the perspective to a first-person view of the karting. Whether or not this was just used as promotional material to add a meaningful change to the original is yet to be seen, but hopefully with this new change in perspective comes more realistic driving mechanics that we would expect to see from modern titles. One gripe that I had about the original game back on the PS1 was that I remember the camera being too close to Pac-Man to get a good feel of how far I would need to jump, as the screen would often be too zoomed in to get a proper idea of platforms surrounding Pac-Man, often resulting in countless deaths needing to jump to platforms that were simply out of the camera's reach. If this aspect of the game has been fixed, it would greatly modernize it and be much more accessible to a new audience of players who perhaps never played the original. This type of problem was actually quite common during the heydays of platformers back in the early 2000s, as a simple rework of the camera would do wonders in making it more accessible to everyone. Speaking of the camera is fixed and there is no way to move the camera in the original game. Perhaps Pacman World RePac will allow players to shift the camera a few degrees in this remake, given the original was not designed with analog controls in mind. Overall, this game is making me pretty excited to return to it in this remake. The music is quite memorable, and the boss fights, collectibles, and general platforming were all quite well done here. If the developers can manage to pull the camera back just a bit to give us a better idea of the play area surrounding Pac-Man, then this game is instantly more playable and will eliminate much of the dated design that will frustrate newcomers to the series. Hopefully, the success of this game will generate more potential interest to remake Pacman World 2 and 3, as those games were more similar to the fully 3D mascot platformers that were all the rage in the early 2000s. In general, if you are a fan of Pac-Man and you are interested in some quality 3D platforming, this game should be a no-brainer for you. Maybe stay put once the reviews come out to see whether or not the enhancements in this remake truly modernize this classic game. But now with that, what are your thoughts on Pacman World RePac? Will you be picking this game up later this summer? Let me know your thoughts in the comments down below, and make sure to like this video and subscribe to the channel for more episodes of Game Watch like this, as well as reviews, tips and tricks videos, and more surrounding the industry's latest and greatest games. Thank you all for your support, good people. Peace.